we had Greg Coleman on the podcast, who was the first African American punter in the NFL. And then we had Raymond Harris, who was a running back for the Chicago Bears. And I asked them, what do most people not realize about punters, or what do most people not realize about running backs, or basically take us like inside the helmet of that position. And it was cool because like Greg would say, well, a big part of my job is focusing on the center and focusing on the snap, seeing how the ball is rotating, seeing how the how the snap is put down, or the lace is facing in or out. And so that was interesting, because now every time I watch a football game, I'm like looking at the center. I'm like, all right, what does that snap look like? So I'm curious, from your perspective, what do most people not realize about quarterbacks? Or take us, I guess, inside the helmet of an NFL quarterback.
Yeah. So obviously, like, if you literally go inside the helmet, like, we have the microphones where the coaches can talk to us. And obviously, like, KOC got a big story about it just from the Minnesota experience this past season. So they can talk to you down to 15 seconds. So when you see teams like doing tempo or going slow, the communication going on in the helmet can vary. So, like, say, for instance, during a 2-minute drill, a team, they get up there and they go fast. Now they're on the line of scrimmage, and the coach, whether he's upstairs on the sideline, he can sit there and talk to the quarterback. So he can be like, hey, like, they're in this coverage, they're doing this, this is what I'm seeing. But then when 15 seconds hits, it goes out. So, like, a lot of teams with younger quarterbacks, like, they'll go like no huddle up tempo, because it allows the coach more time to figure out what the defense is in. They communicate more to the quarterback so he can go out and play simpler football. But then on the other side, like, older quarterbacks, a lot of times they're calling plays. So it's like different. You're going no huddle, and the communication is, there's nothing going on in the helmet. Like with Ben, sometimes the communication might just be left hash, 2nd and 7. And you're going no huddle, and then Ben's doing cadence, trying to figure out what they're in, and he's just like calling the game on the field. So some of that stuff was really cool, but you can see like the communication in the helmet like varies significantly between a younger quarterback and an older quarterback, and the ways like that coaches use tempo and get creative so that they're able to figure out what the defense is in and put their whoever it is in the best light can vary, obviously based on the quarterback and obviously based on the situation. So it's very unique and it's cool. Like, I think like college now may start putting the headsets in the helmets, but like that's the biggest jump from college to NFL. College, everyone just looks at the sideline, and the only communication is usually like the protection or the run play to the line, and then you clap, you move on. NFL, completely different. You hear the play, you have to say the long play, communicate it to the guys, and then go out and execute the play. So yeah, like it's unique. It's definitely a learning curve with the communication that it takes to be an NFL quarterback, but I think it's pretty cool, like hearing them talk to you in your headphone, in your helmet, and then you're able to boom, go out and play from there.
How much does crowd noise affect that communication or your performance as a quarterback?
It doesn't affect your performance, but it does impact the communication. So you see the guys like sometimes do this, and my girlfriend always says, like, when you do that, you look like you're like a 5-year-old kid throwing a temper tantrum. I'm like, I can't hear what the coach is saying, but it affects them. It affects like the communication, just because if it's a long play, like you're listening to the play, and if it's loud, like you're trying to hear every single detail to say it to the guys. And then if you miss one thing, then you got to look to the sideline, tell them to repeat it. But then if the crowd, if it's 18, 17, 16, and it's cutting out, then you lose the opportunity to say the play. But for the most part, like most quarterbacks, for the longer plays, once he gets halfway through it, like we know the play because we've practiced it obviously like 4 times throughout the week. We've walked through it, so we know exactly what play, so we can finish the sentence if you're really on your P's and Q's during the game. But crowd noise does affect the communication, but once the ball snapped, like you honestly don't even hear the crowd.
What's been some of the toughest stadiums that you've played in? As a fan, I think of Seattle, but I'm curious from your perspective.
Yeah, Seattle was loud, but we played them at 1 when I was in Arizona. It was kind of like dreary, rainy, which I know it rains there a lot, but it wasn't like crazy loud, if that makes sense. But it was a nice stadium. Like I'm not talking smack to any Seahawks fans that see this. I'm just giving my perspective. The loudest ones I've heard, like Kansas City rocks. Like playoff game, Kansas City, That stadium rocks. Pittsburgh's a great environment. I haven't played it from an opposing side, but from a home side, that's a loud stadium. I played away versus Minnesota, then obviously this year in Minnesota. That's probably like one of my favorite places. That place rocks. Like the indoor, the skull chant, everything that place gets going. And then the faithful, like it's rocking in San Fran. Like we played, I think we were 1:00. And they started quick. Like y'all started quick. I think 2 touchdowns on the first 2 drives. So for us, like then we're back on the field. That place got rocking. So those are probably like some of my, I guess, like top 4 or 5 places that I've enjoyed playing.